Hello and welcome to this week's Weatherquest farming forecast. Well, for those of you in eastern England, it looks like finally we're getting some more autumnal weather. It's been a very wet and unsettled last few days, particularly before the weekend. Further west, though, it hasn't been as bad, but further east we have had some quite wet conditions. So these are the 48-hour rain totals from Thursday evening through until Saturday evening this week. And you can just see the amounts of rain here that parts of Norfolk and eastern Suffolk particularly saw over that period. Some places seeing over 100 millimetres of rain, that's over 4 inches in just a 48-hour period. So an exceptionally wet couple of days, as basically we saw that low pressure out to the east just pile in rain off the North Sea and into Norfolk and parts of Suffolk. So a very wet period there. As you move further west, things did actually drop off quite quickly. You can see Lincolnshire and western Suffolk still saw about 10 to 20 millimetres of rain, but moving further west into the Midlands and western parts of East Anglia, many places seeing only a couple of mil or so. So vastly different rainfall amounts over a relatively short area space, but yes, for many eastern areas it's an incredibly wet couple of days. As ever, when there's rain around like this, it's great to check out WQRadar. You can, of course, see 5-minute rainfall radar observations as well as lightning alerts and all the latest observations from the Met Office weather station. So if you want to check that out, go to wqradar.co.uk and you can sign up there. So looking ahead to the forecast for the next few days, this is the jet stream on Tuesday, currently in this little area of not very active jet activity, but as we go through the middle part of the week, you can see this jet stream pushing further east across the UK, and then it dives down to the south of us, and we're in this pool of cold air and rather unsettled weather towards the weekend. You can see that area of low pressure circling round. We're on the northern side of the jet stream, so turning quite cool and becoming more unsettled. And as you can see, there's further quite active areas of jet stream out to the west, ready to push in more unsettled weather beyond the weekend and into the early part of next week. So quite an unsettled period, looking like it's coming up over the next few days. So taking a look a bit more detail, this is Tuesday. There was this little bit of area of patchy rain and quite overcast conditions really for East Anglia and Eastern England on Tuesday, but elsewhere saw a fine day, generally under this ridge of high pressure. But as we go forwards into Wednesday, you can see this area of low pressure pushing this front eastwards overnight and into Wednesday. Wednesday morning quite wet in western areas. Eastern England might get away with being just about dry through Wednesday morning ahead of that rain, but as you can see moving forward through Wednesday afternoon, that rain does then push through eastern England as well and then clears to the east. And then a few showers coming through behind before this more active area of low pressure spreads southeastwards, developing as it does so. And by the time it gets to the end of Thursday, that area of low pressure looks like it's going to be situated, centred across northern France. And you can see quite windy conditions across southern England, those isobars tightening. Further north, not quite as bad, but quite windy for southern areas. And there are still some uncertainties with this area of low pressure depending on how far south it does come. So if it's that bit further north, it could be that this rain pushes a little bit further northwards into parts of northern England. If the low tracks that bit further south, it might be that this rain's not quite as extensive. So it's one definitely to keep an eye on in the forecast how this pans out over the next few days, but definitely bear in mind that the further south you are, the rain is the most likely for Thursday and overnight into Friday. Beyond that, for the weekend, this low pressure basically sticks around where it is, circulating round over northern France and the Channel, pushing this area of rain northwards and then developing this front back here. So again, quite an unsettled looking picture into the weekend. But again, with these areas of rain, there's still quite a lot of uncertainty as to exactly where they're going to track. So fairly good confidence of this overall picture, this unsettled picture, but slight differences in where that low centred could lead to differences in where that rain falls. So don't take at this stage any forecast too literally in terms of the timings and specific amounts of rain, but bear in mind that many places could see quite a wet end to the week, and it definitely is worth keeping on top of the forecast during that period. Now into the early part of next week, that area of low pressure looks like it's going to stay pretty dominant over the British Isles, circulating various showers and longer spells of rain around it during the early part of next week. So that unsettled field does look like it will continue beyond the weekend and through much of next week as well. Now here, this is the graph of the likelihood of a dry day going forward for the rest of October. So you can see that many places saw a dry day on Tuesday, apart from eastern areas, but pretty much beyond that now, we are looking at quite an unsettled spell of weather. For northern and western areas, right out until the end of October, this runs through until the 25th of October, those green colours there showing a chance of a a wet days, these green colours showing wet days, L for a likely chance of a wet day. So quite an unsettled looking spell of weather for northern and western Britain. Further south and east, looks like it will be wet for the first part of this period. By the time we get through to the middle part of October, there are hints of something slightly drier. Not a strong signal, but it looks like that could be the best of the drier weather from around the 15th for a few days into that week there. So that's the best chance at the minute of looking like something slightly drier. Other than that, looks like quite a wet and unsettled period for many places through October. So looking beyond that, this is the overview of next week. Basically that active jet stream out to the south of us, that's where that low pressure is going to sit, especially for the first part of the week. You can see here the pressure anomaly, those blue colours showing lower than average pressure, and a good signal there for quite an unsettled looking pattern, low pressure being relatively dominant. We've got a little area of high pressure both across Iberia and across parts of northeastern Scandinavia, and that's reflected in the rainfall as well. So many central and western areas seeing those green colours, above average rainfall, quite a lot above average in some places, these dark green colours there. But yeah, a wet feel for central areas, drier than average across the Mediterranean and northern Scandinavia with that high pressure ridging through as well. So a bit of a contrast depending on where you are in terms of the rainfall. In terms of temperatures, that low pressure and being to the northern side of the jet stream is going to bring some quite cool air across western parts of Europe, particularly the UK, France, Spain, parts of Switzerland, Germany, those sorts of areas. Temperatures below average in that more cool northerly air. Further east, with this low pressure in the centre, it's going to draw up a more southerly flow of air on its eastern side. So above average temperatures across Scandinavia, eastern and southeastern Europe during next week. So another east-west contrast in the temperatures there. Looking ahead to the second week of October, the low pressure focus looks like it does shift further east, more centred across Eastern Europe and parts of the Baltic Sea. We do see a slight hints of high pressure ridging in from the west, but still quite a weak signal at this stage. So looking at how that impacts on the rainfall, you can see many places, particularly further west, but many parts of Europe seeing those green colours, the above average rainfall. It's only really Iberia, southern parts of Italy, the Mediterranean islands, and perhaps southern parts of the UK, perhaps getting something slightly drier than average as well, as that high pressure tries to build in from the west during that third week period. In terms of temperatures, still cooler than average in Western Europe as that cooler air comes in from the north or northwest, but elsewhere there's still a hint of slightly above average in the east and north, and perhaps in parts of southern Spain as well. So not a huge amount of change in the temperatures during going forward into that third week. Looking ahead to the fourth week, we still see this area of low pressure tending to be a bit more persistent over Scandinavia. There's still a weak signal for high pressure trying to build in from the west. Nothing overly dominant or massively persistent. No big highs building at this stage, it looks like, but maybe slight influences of high pressure. And the impact that has on the rainfall is a little bit mixed. Many places looking like they're close to average. There's a few hints of some places seeing something slightly drier than average, but you can see there's also some slightly wetter than average areas as well. So I feel like this may be quite a tricky picture to kind of unpick at this stage, but quite a mixed picture, but perhaps something slightly more settled in the west. You can see further northeast with that low pressure, more widespread green colours really for that area, showing above average rainfall for that week. In terms of temperatures, still something cooler or slightly close to average in the west, but elsewhere these red colours showing above average temperatures for that week 4 period. So to summarise across the UK, low pressure dominating for the rest of this week and into the early part of next week. It looks likely to remain unsettled beyond that, with temperatures generally staying below average, so cool and autumnal feeling going forward. But there is perhaps something more settled for southern parts of the British Isles towards the middle and end part of October. So thanks for watching this video. As ever, you can keep up with our day-to-day forecasts via social media, and remember to look out for next week's farming forecast video as well. Thanks for watching.